Hello, welcome back to Nook and Cranny Gaming. I am Nook, and we are back with Never Alone. And the reason we're back is because there's a whole section called Cultural Insights. So we're not going to be playing any of the game in this episode. See, I've got 23 out of 24 unlocked. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at some of these cultural insight moments and seeing what light they can shed on our story, possibly the game, and maybe even the people that the story is based off of. So here we go. So as I started recording these cultural insights, it's actually like a documentary. And for the sake of preserving their creative project and their creative property, I guess, I don't want to be able to just film this and put this on the internet, so I'm just going to share with you my thoughts one by one of these things. I will be talking through some of the cultural insights thing. I'm missing one. I'll probably go grab it though. And I want to hear what you have to think about it too, and hopefully some of these things can shed some light on the stories in the game, like I've said before. But for the sake of their intellectual properties, and I don't want to get in any trouble with them for recording them, you're just going to hear my thoughts about each one. So I just watched the first one, and it's more about the people and where they come from. So the Inupiat people come from northern Alaska, which is a big span of mountains and wilderness in northern Alaska and on the border of Canada, where this hunting and gathering society has survived for many years, and they're descendants of these people that actually lived these tribal style lives. There's photographs of these people living out there and doing their thing, and there's still huts that are they showed like an ATV in the background driving past these whalebone huts that have been put up as shelter. And it's incredible to learn that stuff, and these people are incredibly proud of where they've come from and what they've descended from. And it's very, very cool that people are so in touch with their past, but that also plays into what kind of society that they're part of. Even though they're a hunting and a gathering society, they're not just hunting for themselves or gathering for themselves. Their whole manner of living is based off of interconnectedness and interdependent, and being interdependence. That's the word I'm looking for. They're all about helping each other and living together and growing together and living, and not just living together, but surviving together, I guess is the right word. So I'm going to go on to the next one. So going into the second cultural insight here, it would be really nice to hear a story is the title of this one. And this one is exactly what the title says. It's all about the importance of storytelling in this life of the community of the Inupiat, I believe is how it's said. I'm from the south, so I got that drawl, and then I moved up north and I got rid of the drawl a little bit, and now I'm trying to pronounce. Yeah, I'm trying. Anyway, they're talking about the importance of stories. There'd be like an old person sitting around just relaxing, and then they would offer saying, it would be nice to hear a story. And someone would just pick up and start telling a story, and they're saying that these stories were so expansive and so engaging that it was greater than any movie blockbuster you've ever seen, as a line from that right there. And it's just so full of detail and so full of life, and that it would be so exciting to hear. But it was something interesting about the story that we experienced in the game. They're saying that the stories were usually about how to live life and how to survive and how to find food, or how to culturally, treat one another. And so for my interpretation of the story that we experienced, and then to hear that, I'm wondering what there is more to this and what is all about with the story that we went through. Before I started this cultural insight called Scrimshaw, I actually went back in game and made sure that I had the one missing insight that we were missing. Right now I've got 24 unlocked, so we're all good. We don't have to worry about missing one along the way. And it actually wasn't where I thought it was. It was actually in a completely different level, a completely different area. So I don't know what was up on that ledge that I couldn't get to that I thought we'd be able to get to if I lowered the rope. Anyway, I just watched the Scrimshaw cultural insight, and basically it was about Scrimshaw. And if you don't know what Scrimshaw is, it's a form of art that takes place when you're carving into bone or ivory. The importance of it was again for storytelling, which I love. I'm loving this so far because it's all about, how stories are told. And essentially they would operate kind of like a book. Like the artist or the storyteller would sit down with either, it could be like a tusk of a walrus that they would carve and tell a story of different, whether it be people or animals or whatever it is, through the Scrimshaw method. And there was one shot of a man with a bone that was as big as my room here. Like, it would probably stretch from end to end of the screen behind me, which is not even a good representation of how long it was, but it was 12 to 14 feet long. I think it was some kind of whale bone, and it had etchings all along it of these people traveling and huts and very intricate work. It's not like, like a stick man doing this and another stick man doing this and another one stick, like, it wasn't like that. Like, very beautiful art is etched with these with the Scrimshaw pieces of work. And they're saying that they're like a book because other Scrimshaw artists and certain people that obviously were around Scrimshaw or understood it or got into it would be able to read it and tell you the story of whatever you're holding, of this piece of Scrimshaw. And I think that's incredible. It's a completely different form of communication that we don't even deal with now. Our etchings and whatever come in the form of Instagram, pictures and video and whatever. But what they were creating was essentially a language through picture. And I think that's really incredible. He was speaking about his grandfather actually owned an Arctic fox, and there's a saying or something known among these people that if you are nice to a fox or a white fox in times of danger, they'll try to make sure that you aren't in danger. They'll try to protect you and help you in some way, shape, or form. And apparently his grandfather had an Arctic fox, and they're just adorable. They're just the best. That they would, let out to play or whatever, and it would jump and run and just bound through the snow. And it said that it would actually tackle him and lick him on the face and all this stuff, like a very, very playful breed of animal. So it's really incredible. Apparently that's the inspiration for the fox from the game. This next episode, I think it plays more into the final achievement that we unlocked, or the chapter was called Caribou Feet, and in the story it said I believe the giant said as he left, he said something along the lines of, and the blizzards or the snows that were affecting you will cease and you'll be able to see Caribou Feet. And the reason that was said, which I thought it just meant like the blizzard is over. I thought it meant the snow is just gone. I thought that, it's going to be a little bit easier living. But actually what this means is, or why this was applied to the story and in the game, is that caribou skin or caribou clothing is the best. And that's the cultural insight. Caribou skin clothing was the best, right there in front of me. It's the warmest, the hair was the longest, it was the thickest. For the coldest winters, this would protect you from the harshest of environmental troubles, or ailment, or what am I thinking of? Just from bad weather, which sounds very light, as when there's like death bringing blizzards that are absolutely ferocious, and caribou skin would protect you from the cold. And so that final achievement is saying that you're gonna survive, and there's more to it than just the caribou will be back. But the caribou will be back and you will survive is kind of like the main message that I'm kind of getting now from that. But Inupiat people used like seal skin for their shoes, and they used, oh man, I lost the word. I wanted to remember it. There was a certain plant, I believe, that they carved for insoles in their shoes to create, a hard bottom to walk on. I think that's incredible. So there are people that lived off the land, and these people, there's interviews with them. These people grew up wearing wolfskin boots and caribou coats and sealskin shoes, and I think that's incredible that these people are still around, because eventually that generation is going to be gone that kind of lived off the land. Sure, throughout the world there's people that I'm sure there's tribes that we still have not made full contact with. I've heard of in certain certain parts of wilderness and certain parts of the world there that are kind of untouched by man still. Like, there might be people out there that are still living off the land, which is incredible to me. I personally think that's absolutely incredible. So, yeah, so to give some extra insight from the cultural standpoint for that final chapter, it's more about, I think the metaphor was more about you surviving. The caribou will come back, and that's a literal thing, but it's more about the blizzard is over, and now you can see caribou feet. You have hope of survival. Thea Has A Soul is the next cultural insight, and this talks about more of the spiritual helpers. I don't know if the spiritual helpers are like an idea or part of the lore that exists with the Inupiat people, but they're absolutely in the game, and there's a connection there, or an inspiration there, that we can now decipher. Sia is said to be the weather, the atmosphere. It's everything from the land, and when I say from the land, I don't include land in the list, but from the land above. Air, the atmosphere, and stars is what it was said. Like, Sia is from the land up, and the land is known as Nuna, and Nuna was the name of our character. So I'm wondering if there's a connection there of Nuna going to protect the people from the weather, and I'm starting to make a little connection for the naming. The naming kind of changes things. When there's a battle between something that is outside of man, it might have a deeper connection or a deeper meaning than just, I'm gonna break your stuff to make my world better. I'm sure we'll find out more, and I don't want to make any assumptions right now, but I like knowing that her name is Nuna, and knowing that Nuna is the land. It's pretty incredible. And they were talking about the spiritual helpers are more of a sign of how we're connected to everything, how we're more connected to the world and the things around us, and how we affect things in more ways than we think. And the spiritual helpers, these spirit helpers that come of Sia, I believe they're all of the spirit of Sia, actually can take the form of a bird, or take the form of a man with an owl face, like the Owl Man, or a fox, and help us in that way. And I'm wondering if the fox's name for the game is Sia. I don't know if that makes any sense now that I've said it, but it said that in the end, in the end, the boy said, if you need me, or if you need my help, just look to the stars, or look up. And then he flew off to the stars. So there's a connection there, and I'm wondering if they're going to name the fox later in this documentary series. We'll have to see in the next time, in the next Cultural Insight, what it tells us.